And welcome to the first episode of Take Me Out to the Podcast, HTF's second spin-off podcast. This one is baseball, and even more baseball. I am your host, Johnny Jackson, and I'm here with Nick Geddes and Kayla Burge. How are you doing, guys?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
All right, so I want to kick this off with what is the first Major League Baseball game that you were ever there for in person that you can remember?
Oh, gosh. I mean, I was going to Marlins games since I was little when it was still at now Hard Rock Stadium. But I guess what I can remember was going to Marlins games when, like, the Ozuna, Stanton, and Yelich were the outfield. I used to go all the time. Those were my favorite games to watch.
Well, I went, my first baseball games were when the Rays were the Devil Rays. They wore green, and they were awful. And my favorite player was Rocco Baldelli. I don't know if y'all remember who Rocco Baldelli was.
Do you remember David DeJesus?
I remember David DeJesus. But Rocco Baldelli was my guy, and still kind of is. So I'm good to see that he's doing great as manager of the Twins.
Yeah, so the first baseball games I remember going to, so my brother went to the University of Tampa. And so I guess like once every couple months at like the semester breaks, me and my dad would go down and watch a Rays game with my brother. And I remember, pretty sure it was David Price. He got absolutely shelled. I forget who they were playing, but he got shelled. And he didn't do that very often. So if I look pretty hard, I could probably find out which game it was. But I'm way too lazy to actually do that. So we're going to kick this off with a little bit of off-season recap. The biggest deal of the off-season, Mookie Betts and David Price to the Dodgers. And the Dodgers only really gave up Alex Verdugo, Jeter Downs, and Connor Wong, a catching prospect.
Yeah.
Kayla, you're a Dodgers fan. What were you thinking?
I mean, I was like, good for the Dodgers. We got a deal for basically nothing. I mean, Alex Verdugo was injured. Is he still injured?
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be ready for opening day as of now.
Yeah, so we gave away an injured player and a couple prospects for one of the best players in the league and David Price. Like, it doesn't seem right, but I will take it with no questions asked.
I think it's a great deal for the Dodgers because they've had a lot of disappointment in the playoffs the last few years, and as if they needed anything else, they add a top 5 player in all of baseball, and basically for a prospect who we still don't even know if he's going to pan out, and 2 other prospects who, even if they pan out, are they going to be Mookie Betts? No. The David Price contract I don't love at all, but a team like the Dodgers can't afford it, and he is useful as a 3 or 4 in a rotation. That's what the Dodgers are going to have him as, so I think it's a great trade for the Dodgers.
And I think a lot of people are looking over David Price a lot in this deal. Yes, he wasn't amazing last year, but the Red Sox are also still paying half of his contract.
Yeah.
So the Dodgers are really only paying $16 million for David Price. And to me, that's a great steal. Also, the American League to the National League, he only really has to face 8 hitters in a lineup.
Yeah, and he's getting out of the AL East. And he gets a full at least 2 to 3, 4 starts against a Giants lineup and a Padre lineup that I'm not sold on. So it's much better than facing Yankees and all that all the time.
And I think something the Dodgers have been missing is that consistency in the postseason. And like with our current team now, like, yeah, we have a great team and we kill it in the regular season, but cause we choke every time we get to the postseason. I love Bellinger, but he does it every time, and I'm just so disappointed. But I think now that we have Mookie and another pitcher added to the bullpen, I think that's a good direction for us to go in.
I think one of the best things this allows the Dodgers to do is to kind of play mix and match with their bullpen because they got Alex Wood back. Yeah. Love him. But now it gives them the flexibility to use Dustin May or Tony Gonsolin out of the bullpen.
Yeah.
And Tony Gonsolin throws so hard, and he has a great mustache. Dustin May also throws very hard. He throws a 99-mile-an-hour sinker for 6 innings a game and has the most luscious ginger locks I've ever seen in my life.
Got to give them a baseball compliment and a physical compliment.
Oh, yes. Whose hair is... So, I'm sure you guys heard of Dustin May being called Ginger Guard.
Yes.
Whose hair is better, Dustin May or Noah Syndergaard?
I love Noah Syndergaard. I feel like I can't.
Yeah, I have to go with Syndergaard.
Yeah.
I think he is Thor. Like
he
in
created it.
He looks great. So, who won the offseason? Because obviously you had the Yankees with Garrett Cole,
Yeah.
9 years, over $300 million. You have the Angels with Rendon and Tehran and Dylan Bundy. Who won the offseason?
I think that's hard to say. You could say, yeah, it's the Dodgers. They got Mookie. They got David Price. You could say, well, the Yankees because they got Garrett Cole. But I don't know. I would say it's between the Yankees and the Dodgers for sure. But I think there's a couple teams that are really going to like surprise us this season.
In terms of improving your team, I don't think anybody has done a better job than the Chicago White Sox.
Yes.
The Chicago White Sox have some pieces like Jose Abreu, Yoan Moncada, Lucas Giolito, on, and they add Dallas Keuchel and Gio Gonzalez to the rotation. You get one of the better catchers in the game, Yasmani Grandal. You get a big-time power hitter, Edwin Encarnacion. You get Nomar Mazara to play in the outfield. And then also one that I don't think anybody's really talked about is Steve Cishek. This guy is a consistent guy to put in the back end of your bullpen, and Chicago has Alex Colomé back there. What better way than to put Cishek in the 8th inning, and I think that's a pretty good duo.
I was looking, sorry, Caleb, I was looking today. I didn't even know Cishek was a White Sox until this afternoon.
That's what I'm saying. It's not something it's not flashy, but it's one of those moves. You look at his ERA, he's consistently under 2 or right around 2. And that's why he has longevity. That's why he's up in his age and his career, and he's still lasting because of that.
I think something to add, too, is that baseball as a whole, like, catchers are needed across the board. So the fact that they got Grandal is something that I think could be definitely beneficial going into it. And for me, like, the White Sox are a team that I've always said, like, I would talk to my dad about, I'm like, why aren't they doing anything? Why aren't they doing anything? And this is finally the season where they've, like, taken out their wallets and spent the money they needed to do better.
And smart on them also for getting Yasmani Grandal, because James McCann was an all-star last year behind the dish, but it's a breakout year. And James McCann is not young anymore, or as young as he used to be.
I think he's like 29 or 30 at this point.
We don't know what we're going to get out of James McCann realistically. So get a catcher who you know what you can do, and if McCann still plays like he does, well, you can put him at DH.
The other interesting thing about the White Sox is that they lost the most pitches because of bad framing from James McCann, and I think Wellington Castillo was their backup catcher.
Yes.
And Yasmani Grandal, he's either the second or third catcher in terms of framing, depending on who you look at, with Austin Hedges and maybe JT Realmuto ahead of him, depending on which stat you look at. Mm-hmm. That's incredible with how many strikes they're going to get back. That Rangers are pitching. I think Giolito took an amazing step last year. He was the worst pitcher in baseball in 2018, and he was an all-star in 2019. I think he makes that jump. Michael Kopech, the flame-throwing right-hander, throws absolute gas. Also, congratulations on your marriage. He's coming back. With him coming back, Carlos Rodon, I feel like we've been waiting for a Carlos Rodon breakout for like 6 years.
Rodon.
Yeah.
And you have Keuchel in there who can just mentor these guys. I think I've told Jeremy this. I've told a lot of people this. I think the White Sox are going to be in the postseason this year.
I agree.
It's a wide open division, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not saying they're going to win any playoff games. Don't get me wrong. But I think the White Sox have a sneaky chance to win the AL Central. Because Clevenger just went down for 6 to 8 weeks. That puts him in the middle of April, and losing all of spring training for a starting pitcher, it's very hard. Mm-hmm. That's when they get stretched out. I don't think Mike Clevenger is 100% Mike Clevenger until at least May 10th-ish, second week of May, before he's really able to go those 6-7 innings to start. I mean, do you guys agree with me on that point?
Yeah, I would say so. Mike Clevenger is kind of become injury prone a little bit, and see, when he's pitching, he's one of the most electric players in all of baseball that a lot of people really don't even know about yet because we don't see him enough. And I was expecting big things out of Mike Clevenger, so it's very unfortunate that he gets this injury right before spring training. But talking about the Indians, this is not your old Indians rotation. This is Shane Bieber, who's a budding ace. Clevenger's out. Carlos Carrasco, who, it's a great story, but we still have to see what he has left in the tank because he's now about 32, 33 years old, I believe. So he's got some mileage on him. So we have to see what he has, and after that, you have the youngster Zach Plesac and Andrew Savali. So very uncertainty there, and plus the ongoing rumors of Francisco Lindor and all that. So I think it's wide open, and Chicago has a chance to really improve a lot.
Yeah, I think overall Chicago is, I don't know, a team to beat this season.
So Kayla, who is your pick for? Who do you think? Which team do you think is going to be the most surprising in 2020?
The most surprising, that's a hard question. I mean, again, we can go back to the White Sox, because they haven't done much since. But overall, I really don't know. I think with all the drama going on and all the moves and everything, it's an open field right now. You don't know. I think, and it's not necessarily surprising or not, I think it's going to be interesting to see how the Astros perform this season.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the Astros are going to have... I don't want to hear I know it's going to happen, but I don't want to hear any Astros even being thought about for comeback player of the year because they had to deal with so much adversity. No, they did it to themselves, and they have to just play and try and... Because I do believe they're good players.
Yeah.
They are good to great players, and this season is going to be really telling of who the Astros really are, if there is any leadership in that clubhouse at all.
Yeah, I think for me, a team that I think is on the rise, sleeper team, is the New York Mets. Not getting a lot of coverage, and I think that's a good thing for the Mets, being in New York. This is a rotation that's spearheaded by Jacob deGrom, who's the best pitcher in baseball, in my opinion.
I agree with that.
Yes, I think so. You have Noah Syndergaard, who, albeit I think needs to put a full season together of dominance to really solidify what everybody's saying about him. You have Marcus Stroman behind him, and then you can sign Rick Porcello and Michael Wacha. And that's a pretty good 4 and 5 to have in your rotation. And if you look at their lineup, there's not many holes there. And a guy like Jed Lowry, who was an all-star in 2018, he didn't really play at all last year, so he'll be coming back. And, there's a lot of guys in that team: Pete Alonso, Jeff McNeil, Wilson Ramos, Michael Conforto, Ahmad Rosario. And if you can get Brandon Nimmo to show what he showed in 2018, you got a pretty good team. And so I'm looking for the Mets to really make a jump.
I just don't think there's any way that bullpen gets worse. Because and also they added Betances. I think did they lead the majors in blown saves last year?
Yes. And if you're talking about the bullpen, I don't think Edwin Diaz is going to do that again. He's too good.
There's no way.
He's too good not to be the dominant reliever that he was in Seattle. And Dylan Betances, if he can stay healthy, what an 8-9 duo. I mean, that would really help out. And honestly, Jacob deGrom deserves to have 30 wins every year. And he ends up with like 10.
He deserves 40.
Yes.
Yeah, he deserves everything in the world, honestly. So I'm excited for Mets fans that they have Jacob deGrom and Noah Syndergaard to watch, every week, and you get a good duo in the back like that.
Another team I personally like is the Reds. I also think the NL Central is wide up for grabs because I think top to bottom it's not the worst division in baseball, but every team is just about at that same level of bad, except for the Pirates. They're just...
We don't need to talk about the Pirates.
We don't need to talk about the Pirates. But the Reds, they got Wade Miley for 2 years. They got Nick Castellanos. They got Mike Moustakas to play second base, which I think is going to be the DJ LeMahieu of 2020.
You think Mike Moustakas is going to be the DJ LeMahieu of 2020?
He's going to be that sneaky deal that people were like, it's good. I think Mike Moustakas is a top 5 MVP this year. That's my bold prediction for this year. What's some of your bold predictions for this year?
Oh, that's something to think about. I don't know. I'm gonna think about that. I'm gonna let you go first.
Bold predictions. I think the Arizona Diamondbacks are going to make a pretty strong push this year. I think their offseason has gone underneath the radar. Madison Bumgarner, big game picture.
How do the Giants not match 5 years, $85 million?
The Giants don't know what they're doing as a franchise. They're going to sport out a lineup with Brandon Belt, Brandon Crawford, Buster Posey, Evan Longoria, and Hunter Pence. What do all those players have in common?
I think it's that they all have gray hairs, and they're going to need canes in 5 years.
These are old players past their prime, and the Giants did it again. And who'd they bring in? Wilmer Flores. Am I supposed to be scared of Wilmer Flores?
He kind of makes me quiver in my boots a little bit.
Solid player, but this is not... The Giants need to get younger, and they they refused to do it, and they had chance after chance after chance to trade Madison Bumgarner. Didn't do it. Now you lost them to a division rival who's better than you.
That's my thing. If they knew that they weren't going to resign, because Bumgarner's 30. That's the weirdest thing to me. Is when you see those things, it's like Wander Franco is going to be so good when he's Juan Soto's age or something like that. It's like Madison Bumgarner's 30. That's still pretty young. He's got a lot of mileage on that arm, obviously, but the man's like carried a team through 3 World Series runs.
Yeah, and he's going to a team that's much younger and in much more position to succeed. I think we've been waiting to see Bumgarner back in the playoffs. It wasn't going to happen in San Francisco. The Diamondbacks, they make a great acquisition of Starling Marte, a very slept on player in this league.
He's Marte Parte is there.
Marte Parte. Starling Marte Parte. I think that may have been a
Starling
fantasy
and
baseball. May have been a fantasy baseball name of mine back in the day.
The Giants, I think, wasted their time with Bumgarner. You know, he gave them all he could. It was time for him to go on. I agree. I think the Diamondbacks will benefit greatly from having him as in their bullpen.
Because I think they were like less than 5 games away from making a wild card run last year, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
They were, and in addition to that, they brought in a guy like Cole Calhoun, he's not gonna take headlines away, but he's a solid player who can play every day, hit you with 30 home runs. You can't overstate. 30 home runs is 30 home runs. That's added to a lineup. They lock up Nick Ahmed. You have Ketel Marte, Eduardo Escobar. Carson Kelly, I thought emerged very well as a pretty good catcher last year. So I like what the Diamondbacks offer, and I think they're a sneaky team. They're not going to win that division with the Dodgers in that division, but I think they are the second best team in that division.
So staying with the NL West for a second, I'm sure you guys have heard about all the rumblings with Nolan Arenado. The Rockies have announced that they will not trade him. He has an opt-out after 2022, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Does Nolan Arenado opt out?
I think so. I think just because, the Rockies aren't a team that you don't see much of them, you don't see much happening. So I think unless they can perform and up until he has that chance to opt out, I think it's going to be time for him to go. I think he's too talented to stay on a team that's not giving him any opportunities.
I would leave, and that's because any time that you are discussing to trade a guy like Nolan Arenado, that just can't happen. That's Mookie Betts. And for me, Nolan Arenado, this guy, go take a look at his stats. Take a look at what he does. It's a shame he has not won an MVP award yet.
It's the same thing that happened with Larry Walker in the Hall of Fame. If you are going to have a team in Colorado, you can't blame them for playing in Colorado.
No. And last time I checked, hitting 95 plus is hitting 95 plus. I don't care about the wind in the air. I don't care about it. Nolan Arenado hits the cover off the baseball. That's what my eyes tell me. And so I think it benefits him to get out of Colorado because just the fact that they decided to put his name in trade discussions. I think for my money, he's a top 5 player in baseball. A lot of people don't think that. I think he's the best third baseman in baseball.
I think he's the second best, right behind Rendon, but
it's close.
Yeah.
That's close.
He's consistent.
I think that's something to think about too. Is that the Rockies field? They say it's like one of the hardest to hit in, and he's a player that consistently does it.
It's the hangover effect. So a lot of the Colorado Rockies players, they talk about they're seeing 2 completely different baseballs when they're at home and on the road. The ball moves so much more, and it feels so much lighter on the road. It's just imagine Clayton Kershaw's curveball. Imagine it moving twice as much. That's what the Rockies see when they come to LA. That's insane. How anybody can hit. And of course, that era, it takes a really hard time because Kenley Jansen couldn't pitch there in 2018 for the last month. He said that he wouldn't be able to pitch there in the playoffs because of his heart condition. He's not even a Rocky. Imagine what those Rockies players are dealing with those injuries.
Yeah.
And I think Nolan Arenado, get the stigma off your back. Everybody says, oh, can he do it in another ballpark? He's just a product of Coors Field. Why don't you go prove him wrong then? I think he would. I think you put him in any lineup in baseball, he's your 3-hole hitter, end of story, and you're competing for championships with Nolan Arenado. I think that's the impact he has. So I think it would benefit him to get out of Colorado and look for greener pastures elsewhere because, like I said, where there's smoke, where there's smoke, there's fire. So I do believe the Rockies put his name in discussions with St. Louis. I do believe they did it with Chicago, and that's just wrong for a player of that caliber. You don't do that.
Plus, the Rockies, I don't think they gave out a single contract to a major league player. That's what Nolan Arenado is really upset about. He's like, when I signed this deal, you guys said you were going to try and win every year.
I'm pretty sure they brought Ubaldo Jimenez back, if you saw that one.
He was a minor league deal, I thought.
Huh. Well, that's their big acquisition, Ubaldo Jimenez. So
they're doing a Giants. He's good. What, like 2008, 2009?
Yeah, they're doing the same thing. And the problem with the Rockies, they have the talent on that roster. You have Nolan Arenado, you have Charlie Blackmon.
They don't have a center fielder. They have no center fielder. Yeah, they had Ian Desmond out there.
Yeah, Ian Desmond's over the hill.
He's not just over the hill. He's falling down.
Yeah,
he's doing a swan dive off the hill.
You know, they're lucky. I'm waiting for Daniel Murphy to fall down that hill. Daniel Murphy's a Rocky, and I think a lot of people forget about that because you don't hear about Daniel Murphy anymore. But he is a solid player. But I am waiting for him to come down the hill too. So it's a really poorly constructed roster. I don't see a guy in the minors besides maybe third baseman. What's the prospect? What's his name?
Oh God, I don't know. I know
Brendan Rodgers.
Oh,
Brendan Rodgers.
Yeah.
He's killing the ball in AAA, hitting 350 like every year in AAA, and obviously he's blocked by Arenado.
He got some time in the majors last year playing second base.
And they have Ryan McMahon now,
yeah,
who can kind of play everywhere. But Ryan McMahon had about 84 RBIs last year, hit 250, 260. So is this rookie year? So there's some potential there. But again, pitching is the name of the game, and they have none of it.
Speaking of great pitching, I just want to talk about Corey Kluber to the Rangers. So just some stats I want to read off. The Rangers had two good to great pitchers last year in Lance Lynn and Mike Minor. So in games started by Mike Minor and Lance Lynn, there were 65 games. Out of those 65, 36 were quality starts. The starters were 30-21 with a 3.63 ERA in over 400 innings. In the rest of their games, with 17 other starting pitchers, 97 games started, 19 quality starts, 15-39 with an ERA over 7 in 390 innings pitched. They won 78 games. With Corey Kluber, do those Rangers make a playoff push?
I don't know if they have the team for that, but I think they're definitely going to be more competitive than they've been in past seasons because, again, pitching, catching, like it's a consistent need. You know, like there's not so much star talent out there that you need to form a whole team, and I think that's something that could take them a little further. But I don't necessarily think playoffs.
Listen, I don't think their talent matches up to the Astros. I think the Astros are the class of that division. Bottom line, Seattle's a non-factor. Seattle's one of the worst teams in baseball.
Yes.
Oakland's always there. I think they're better than the Rangers. And then the Angels, even though they got Anthony Rendon, what else do you bring to the table?
Their pitching has killed them for years, and it's going to continue killing them. Their ace this year is Julio Teheran.
That's not getting it done.
No.
He fell out of favor with Atlanta in their rotation. You're expecting him to spearhead a rotation? Like, when does Ohtani come into pitch again? I mean, when's he going to be in June, July?
I think they said end of May, early June.
By that time, the pitching will have reared its ugly head, and they will be out of it.
Because Teheran's going to give you 200 innings, but is it 200 innings of 3 ERA? Is it 200 innings of 4? You can't really... Maybe.
And back to Corey Kluber, though. Corey Kluber is a top 10 pitcher in the game when healthy. Obviously, this is his first major injury. He's up there in age. He's got some mileage on his arm. So there is some questions there. But if you're getting the real Corey Kluber, which is a guy that's going to sit his ERA in the 2.4s to 2.8s, somewhere in that range, and he's going to compete for a Cy Young, yeah, that's going to really help out that rotation because Lance Lynn and Mike Minor are not aces, but they're pretty darn good 2 and 3s.
I think even if Corey Kluber comes in with like a 3.5 or a 3.3 ERA over 180 to 200 innings, that's what they need. They need good pitching to get them even in contention. Although I think the biggest question mark in the Rangers is their third baseman. Because right now on the depth chart, it's Todd Frazier.
Todd Frazier he's just not getting it done. And he's been bouncing around a lot of teams lately, and the reason why is he's not what he was. His average now, is barely above the Mendoza line, and that's awful. And I look at the rest of this Rangers hitting, Rougned Odor. I've passed my time on Rougned Odor. I don't think he's ever going to hit his potential. You have Willie Calhoun and Danny Santana. They had nice years. Are you really going to be counting on them to get it back? Shin-Soo Choo is still playing right field for them on a bad contract, so I don't like that. Joey Gallo is an animal. maybe that. But
I think
he's got
the
to stay
biggest,
healthy.
one of the worst things that happened last year was that Joey Gallo took such a step forward. It was only in like 60 or 70 or 80 games. If we see that from a whole season, does Joey Gallo potentially top 5 MVP?
He could. I think his average is going to have to sit around, for the amount of home runs I'm expecting him to hit healthy, his average is going to have to sit around 270, 275, I think, to get there. But if he sits around 250 and let's just say he hits, he could hit 50 home runs. I'll put that out there.
Yeah, but he's also getting on base like 40% of the time. I think how much, if he hits 250, how much does he have to get on base to counteract that?
I mean, he's gonna have to walk at least like 120, 130 times, I think.
So what's that put his on base at? 410-ish?
Yeah, tad over 400. Because I'm sure he's going to strike out a good amount because he's a power hitter, and that's just what power hitters do. But I don't think it's out of the question for him to hit 50 home runs. And
no.
If he does that, like I said, and he hits at 270, 275, he'll be in the running, but it'll also depend where the Rangers are in the standings. If he has the kind of impact that catapults them to the wild card, then we'll be talking about Joey Gallo as an MVP candidate.
I was just going to add, I think another team to talk about is the Braves. They're a team that they get there every year, but they fall short. And a lot of that, I think, they didn't have enough power hitting. You got Freddie Freeman, you got other players, but now that they have Ozuna, I think that's something that'll carry them a little further.
That you called like 3 months before it happened. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. I just, because, Ozuna with the
Cardinals last year?
Cardinals, yes. He failed in the postseason.
Wasn't a good year.
Horrible.
Wasn't a good year.
But I don't think that is something to diminish him in any way. I think he still is a very good player and a very good hitter. And that is something that the Braves definitely need to compete with these other teams that have the pitching to go along with that.
I love the Braves. They're a very trendy team. Josh Donaldson's a big loss. I don't know if Johan Camargo is going to offset that, but I understand Josh Donaldson, he got a hefty contract, and at his age, I understand why you stay away, but at the same time, I cannot get on board with Cole Hamels at that contract. I just cannot.
It was one year 18, right?
I just cannot get on board with that. I guess if you're going to win now, fine. Okay, go ahead.
It's only a 1 year deal.
It's only a 1 year deal, so I guess I'll cut him a little bit of slack there, but I don't love Cole Hamels at that price at this stage in his career. However, I understand if you get to the playoffs, this guy that's been there, done that, and he adds some stability to that rotation because it's a very young rotation with Mike Soroka and Max Fried, among others. So, yeah, he's a veteran. So,
what do you think we get from Mike Foltynewicz this year? Because 2018, he was amazing. And last year, he was literally the exact opposite of amazing.
Well, there's so many players in this league that can go on to have a breakout year, and it ends up being just an anomaly. He has been in this league long enough, and I've seen enough before that breakout year and what I saw last year to know it looks more like an anomaly. I don't think you can expect that out of Foltynewicz.
Kayla, do you think 2018 is a fluke, or do you think he's gonna get close to that this year?
I don't know. It's hard to judge by. I think he could get close to that this year. I do.
You think he falls somewhere between those two?
Yeah. Yeah, I could agree with that, yeah.
Okay, so let's stick back. Let's keep it in the NL East. I think the NL East is, right now, top to bottom, the best division in baseball.
Well, you can't say to the bottom because that would have to include the Marlins.
Yeah, the Marlins got better this year. The Marlins got significantly better this year.
I think they're better, but I think Jeter wants this perfect world where he builds a team from the ground up. And yeah, that'd be amazing if it worked. But I also think if you want to compete right now, you need to spend a little money on players. He's not. I don't know.
I do like Jonathan VR.
Yeah.
Take a look at that guy's stat line last year. That's an underrated. I mean, he hit 273. He had over 100 runs. He had over 20 home runs. He had over 70 RBIs, and he stole 40 bases on a bad Orioles team.
Really bad Orioles team.
He did that in that Orioles lineup. I commend him, and I feel bad that he just went to another bad lineup. But that's a decent signing, and
it gives the fans something to show up for.
That's what I'm saying. Jonathan VR is not a world-class player, but for the Marlins, that's a big deal.
Plus, you talk about the Marlins being so bad. I mean, there is a really bad team in every division.
Yeah.
But the Marlins are
The Marlins are down there.
I mean, if you're the Marlins, you don't have any good pitching hardly.
I think the
No.
Royals are worse. I think the Royals are worse in 2020 than the Marlins. The
That's
Tigers,
hard.
the Tigers,
I like-
definitely.
Okay, the Royals. I like this right here. I like Hunter Dozier. I like Alberto Mondesi. I like Salvador Perez coming back from injury. I like Whit Merrifield. That's not a bad 4 guys to
I
have
feel
in your
bad for
lineup.
Whit
Jorge
Merrifield.
Soler. That's 5 guys right there. I can't name 5 guys in the Marlins lineup hardly, let alone 5 that are decent.
Yeah, I mean, you got Urania, who's...
Name 3 starting just name 3 pitchers that are right now on the Royals.
Oh, I couldn't.
I'm sure Danny Duffy is still making his way there.
Oh man.
Danny Duffy's still on the Royals? Can we confirm that?
Oh man. I don't honestly know. I think he is. Danny Duffy still on the
He's
Royals.
still on the Royals. I bet he start opening day. That's what you call
God.
That's what you call an innings.
That's an ace.
That's an innings eater for the wrong reasons. That's what Danny Duffy
Is he even eating them at this point?
He's got a Jeremy Guthrie vibes all over him.
Oh,
Another
God.
former Royal. But no, I think. But back to the NL East though. You said it's the best division,
I do.
top to bottom. I think, like I said, I think the Mets are going to make a big push this year. The Nationals are obviously going to be there, and you have the
Yes.
Braves. So
I think the Nationals are going to come back consistent with the way they performed last year, just because they kept Strasburg, they have Scherzer, and then who's the other one?
Patrick Corbin.
Corbin.
Patrick Corbin. Now they have him, so that's a pretty nice pitching rotation you have there.
Yeah,
To do consistent.
Yeah, Rendon's a big loss though.
It is a big loss.
That's a
I agree.
huge
But
loss.
they have I think
But I don't think-
Carter Kieboom taking his place at third base. They're giving him a shot. I mean, might as
We'll
well.
see.
He's a prospect.
I think they have a chance to. Maybe I don't know World Series contenders. I don't know about that, but I think they have a chance to prove themselves again this year.
With that pitching, you're always in it.
Yes,
Pitching is so
Yes.
important in this league. Nationals have the pitching, and
Yes.
that's I can say that about them more than I can say about a lot of teams.
I agree.
So I think people sleep on the Phillies a lot.
I didn't even mention him in this thing.
There's no last year every single pitcher for the Phillies got significantly worse than 2018. I don't think that there's any way they get worse. That pitching staff has to be better. I don't think Aaron Nola is an over 4 ERA pitcher. He's not.
He's. It's similar to Noah Syndergaard. I think he's just too good to be average like he was last year, and that's my problem with Noah Syndergaard. I think he's very much so. Oh God, he throws 100. He throws 100. Oh, his sinker's 92, 93, whatever. But if you look at the actual what you're seeing, he's going to give up 3 or 4 runs every start. And
Also,
I don't think that can continue.
Aaron Nola either led the majors or was top 3 in starts where it rained. And I watched one of those starts. It was against the Dodgers. It was him versus Ross Stripling. Both of them pitched terribly. But if there's that many games, and obviously you're a major leaguer, you're getting paid millions of dollars. If it rains, you still have to pitch. But I feel like everything broke out completely against Aaron Nola. Like he just had the whole Phillies had a rough year.
Yeah, and I think Joe Girardi he's a stabilizer as a manager. That's a stable manager. Gabe Kapler was kind of a loose cannon. Joe Girardi is very much so business. And I think that'll do good because there's some good personalities like Bryce Harper in that locker room. So I think Joe Girardi is a huge acquisition.
I think for the Philly, if I were a Philly fan, I'd be disappointed in the performance of Bryce Harper though.
Really?
In. I don't know. I don't think he lived up. It's Bryce Harper. You wanted this to be the takeoff. Like, yes, we have him. Let's do it. But I don't think he lived up to the potential that he should have for the Phillies.
Well, I think that the problem with that is, I mean, the guy was on the cover of Sports Illustrated when he was 17 years old.
Oh, he's got the personality. Yeah,
that's the problem. That's the problem.
Yeah.
People are expecting Bryce Harper to have his 2015 season every year. That's not going to
happen.
No,
I don't think he will ever reach that mark again.
No, and everybody thinks he's Mike Trout. He's not Mike Trout. He's not even close to Mike Trout, and I think everybody's expecting that. To give him $400 million, look at what the Nationals just did without Bryce Harper.
It was $340.
Well, whatever.
Bryce Harper had a great season.
Yeah. I don't think that. I just think for the money that they paid, I don't think it adds up.
He also didn't.
If I'm paying $340 million for a player, I don't want him hitting 249.
It's
No.
year one. He hit
Yeah.
he hit 30 home runs. He got on base almost. I think he had a 380 or 390 on base. He played the best defense of his career. People are sleeping on Bryce Harper. He's still a really good baseball
He's
player.
really good baseball player.
He's a really good baseball
Does
player.
that equal $340 million?
No.
Yeah, he's definitely worth it. He's
Are you
definitely worth
kidding
it.
me?
I don't
In
think
production, plus everything he gives you from an endorsement standpoint,
Oh.
100% Bryce Harper's
I
No,
care about
I
the
can't-
on-field product.
It's
of
year
Bryce Harper.
one. You've had
Year one from Bryce Harper, who's supposed to not have a year one fallout. He's supposed to
He didn't have a fallout. He had a good year.
No, he had a good year. Again, we're going back to the money standpoint of it, where the contract doesn't equal the performance.
Of course, he can't live up to $340 million
So he's
in
not worth it.
162
Exactly, so don't
in
pay that.
162 games.
I can name 5 players off the top of my head right now that can do it, and probably more than that. And Bryce Harper is not one of those players.
I'm sorry, Bryce Harper isn't the second coming of Jesus Christ in year
But
one, guys.
that's the point. He's never been that, and he's been hyped up to be that. The
Yes.
Nationals just won a World Series by not paying him that money.
Yes.
They said, we have Juan Soto. We're going to put our faith into a 19-year-old. Guess what happened? He's better than Bryce Harper already.
Ooh.
You don't think... Okay, you think Bryce Harper is better than Juan Soto?
I think we need to see how Juan Soto does this season.
I think if Juan Soto puts up the similar season we did, I think Juan Soto is a better hitter.
I
than Bryce Harper.
saw Juan Soto in the World Series, too, at 19 years old. That we cannot discredit that.
No,
I mean,
that's
the World
something.
Series is a team accomplishment, though. You can't.
But he certainly did his part.
Oh my God! Do you see that? That home run in Game 1 was just absolutely insane.
Yeah, and the Milwaukee series, like game-winning hit to send him into the NLDS.
I did not think. I thought the Brewers were going to run away with that game. I really did.
Well,
Didn't happen.
I mean, Yelich was not out there in right. We can debate we can debate forever if he was in right if that play gets made.
I think not having Yelich was the Brewers' downfall. Not having him that second half.
It
I
was
don't think they would have gone anywhere.
Yeah.
Amazing. But I think they would have done a little better than they.
I mean, it was really just Josh Hader imploding.
Yes.
He
yes,
just-
that's too.
That's an anomaly.
That's
That's an anomaly that happened there. That does not happen often. And again, with the Brewers, I don't think they're going anywhere anyway with Yelich
no.
because, again, pitching.
Yeah.
They don't have any of it. All they have is
all-
Brandon
it's-
Woodruff.
Yeah.
So let's go division by division. I think, well, at least I don't think there's any clue who's going to win the NL West. I don't think there's any debate here. I don't think there's anybody but the Dodgers that win unless the entire city of LA goes through one giant earthquake and disappears.
That's fair.
But you said, Nick, I know you said that the Diamondbacks make a wild card push.
Yeah, I think they make a while. I think it's going to be. There's going to be a lot of teams around that 85 to 89 win range in the NL, and I'm talking because I'm going to assume that the Braves are going to win the division in the NL East. You're going to have the Nationals, you're going to have the Mets, you're going to have the Phillies, you're going to have the Cubs, Cardinals. The Brewers may or may not be there. The Reds are going to be there. The Rockies always find a way to somehow get to 80-something wins. There's going to be a lot of the Padres if they finally could do something with the talent they have around them.
I think the Padres are still a year or two away with those young pitching prospects.
Yeah.
I agree. I don't think Chris Paddock is a 1. And then after that, you have Donaldson, Lamet, Joey LaChase. I'm not buying that as a rotation that's making the playoffs.
Give me Gore, give me Logan Allen up, and then we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll have to see with the Padres again. But my problem with the Padres, they're buying players right now like they're ready to win. You make a trade for Tommy Pham, who's going to turn 32, I believe, next year.
Isn't he only have like 1 or 2 more years at the end of his deal?
I believe so, but Tommy Pham is the kind of guy you bring in when you're ready to win now.
Yeah.
Not when you're still a year or two away.
No, I don't understand. I didn't understand that trade on either side, honestly.
No, we can debate that from the Rays' point of view. This is typical Rays. This is what they do.
Trade someone good for someone with more team control.
And nobody, and I mean nobody on that team is untouchable.
Yeah.
Nobody. That's the way they operate. And they've had success with it.
So the NL Central. Who wins the NL Central? Kayla.
Sorry.
I'm going to go with a team that everybody's kind of underrating at the end of this year is Chicago. I think they're going to bounce back into form, and simply because they're too talented not to. Chris Bryant has not really been a great player the last couple of seasons since his MVP year. I think he's going to snap back into that. I think he's motivated. Anthony Rizzo's as steady as they come. Wilson Contreras in the crew. And Yu Darvish had a really good bounce back year last year.
Bounce back second half. Great second half.
Yeah, and John Lester is a big game pitcher. We'll have to see if he has anything left in the tank. For sure. I think there's questions with the Cubs, but there's questions with every team in that division. That's why it's so wide open. So I'm going to go with the team that has the more stars.
I think I disagree. I think I will go with the Cardinals again. Even though they lost Ozuna, I don't think that is necessarily detrimental to them because he didn't really do much for them when it mattered. So I think I don't think they're going to make it anywhere far, but I think they would be the team to win.
Plus, I don't think there's any way Goldschmidt plays as bad as he did last year.
Yeah, no.
No, and I think
he's a good player.
Goldschmidt still had his. He still hit 35. He still drove in 100. That's Goldschmidt. The average was a little lower than usual, but even if this is what Goldschmidt is, I mean, it's not a bad player by any means.
No.
Yeah, I think that the Reds, I think the Reds make that big push this year.
I do. I don't know about that.
You have Trevor Bauer for a whole year. He wasn't great in Cincinnati last year, but I think going into spring training in Cincinnati, knowing he's going to be in that ballpark, I think he takes a big step forward. They have what's the right name? Castillo, Luis Castillo,
become an ace
who's
this year.
Amazing. They have Sonny Gray, who everyone knew as soon as he left New York he was going to be good again. Mm-hmm. But I don't think anybody thought he was going to be that good that early.
I like what they did with the lineup to bring in Moustakas.
Top 5 MVP.
Again, you'll have to really sell me on that. But Joey Votto is not Joey Votto anymore, and I think the pressure is kind of off his shoulders now, to where he doesn't have to carry this team anymore. They brought in reinforcements, and I think that's huge for Cincinnati. So Votto now I think needs to be better because again he's Joey Votto, but we have to accept he is in the twilight year of his career. So I'm happy that Cincinnati brought in other players to put around him.
What about this new Japanese player, Shogo Akiyama? He is 31 years old, got brought in a 3-year deal. It's unsure whether he's physically able to play center field at this point, but he's an outfielder in Japan. He played 143 games, which is their maximum for the last 4 or 5 years. He hit 303, 392, 471. Last year he hit 20 homers, which has been low for him the past couple of years. He hit 25 the year before and 24 the year before that. Obviously he's not going to hit 300 in majors, but I think he picks out as like a 270s, like a 350, 360 on base. I mean, is he a difference maker?
Well, a lot of these Japanese, Korean players that come over, obviously none of us know much about them.
Yeah.
Unless they're, Ohtani, because everybody's like, oh my gosh, you got to see Ohtani.
100 miles an hour is a lot easier to see than will this guy be a good hitter?
Yeah. And what's his name I don't know if he came from Japan, he may have come from Korea, but a few years ago, Bung-ho Park.
Yeah.
Young-ho Park.
I think he was
from the
Korean.
Twins. Yeah. The guy was an animal in the Korean League, and everybody hyped him up. He lasted 1 year in MLB. And you never heard from him again.
Yeah, I think that's something that's tough to judge, just because we don't get to see their performance that much from here, So I think it tells when they come and when they perform. So I don't think there's much judgment to be made beforehand, besides from what the office of the Reds have seen.
I think the 3-year deal is very indicative of how they perceive him. I think they definitely see him as, if not a center fielder, their opening day left fielder.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I think
over Jesse Winker.
Yeah, I would. That's what I would say. The contract, I think, warrants their faith in him. So, and listen, they're running an MLB team. We're not. They see something we don't know. So we have to see what the Reds bring to the table and what Shogo brings to the table. But at the moment, it's really a wait and see approach, I think, with these guys, just because of the uncertainty.
And I think a 3-year deal is a fair approach. They obviously saw something in him, and I think that's a good amount of time to see what he can do.
So let's bring it back. Spring training games start this week. On Friday, I think is the first one. Who has the most to prove in spring training, Kayla?
I think the Astros, personally, because, they're good, whatever, but I think, they have a lot down their neck, and that does weigh on you. The people constantly, especially Altuve and Correa, the people constantly down their necks, that does weigh on you. So I think that could affect them this season, so it's a matter of what they would do with that.
They've already had fans coming to their spring training complex during their drills and their plays, banging trash cans at them.
Yeah, there was a video on Twitter of people yelling "cheater" at Altuve as he's walking off the field.
And that's going to continue. They did it. I think they deserve it.
No, I think they deserve it as well.
But
It's a matter of how they perform under that pressure.
How do they react to it?
Yes.
Do they lash out at the fans? Do they lash out at the people who don't believe them? Or do they just play their game? And I think they have to just play their game.
And what you have to remember with the Astros, this is all out there and it's everywhere. There's no hiding for them. There is no hiding. It's all out there. They are in the spotlight no matter what they do. Everywhere they go, they are going to have to deal with being heckled. I mean, it is going to look like Jackie Robinson in the movie 42. Obviously, being heckled for way different reasons.
Yes.
But it's going to be like that. That's what they have to understand.
I mean, you got players threatening to throw pitches at them, like...
And it's happening.
Yeah.
It's 100% happening.
And I don't want to hear from Rod Manfred that we're going to have punishments for players doing that. That's what baseball is.
Yeah.
You do something stupid, you get plunked.
Because Bregman, I think it was either last offseason before, he's talking about, like, I like the way the game polices itself. You know, if you get out of line, you get hit.
Yeah, there's a great code in baseball for that, and a lot of sports don't have that. That's the thing. You want to throw one inside? Go right ahead. You don't have to hit him in the head. If you want to hit him right in the thigh, right in the shoulder, by all means, you're going to have to take it and move on.
I don't think you should hit a player, because when Jose Urena hit Acuna in 2018, I think that was wrong, because he was just hitting Acuna because he was good.
Yeah.
He was hitting Acuna because he was hot and he was a rookie. But like players like Bryce Harper going out there, saying things that maybe they shouldn't say, or things that are a little out there, and then getting hit for it. I don't necessarily see too big of a problem with that.
No. And I don't think, personally for me, I think the Dodgers have the most right to be mad, just because that was the title that they took. So, other teams, they can be mad and stuff, but as far as the level of anger, I don't think anyone could be as mad as the Dodgers.
The Dodgers and the Astros also do not play each other in the regular season this year.
And what I was going to say about the Astros, if they hit you, this is what you need to do. Go back to, I believe it was 2013, and A-Rod had just come back from the whole steroid scandal again against the Red Sox. We're in Fenway Park. It's hostile. Ryan Dempster's on the mound. Ryan Dempster plunks A-Rod the first time at bat. Everybody's obviously going crazy. Guess what happened next at bat? A-Rod came to the plate, hits a home run to dead center. So if you're Astros players, why don't you go, when they hit you, next time you come up, do something like that, prove them wrong. And I think that'll really, get the monkey off their own backs. And I think that's what they're going to have to do all year, is just prove everybody wrong, that they really do have the talent to win a championship.
So Nick, who do you think has the most to prove in spring training?
Yoenis Cespedes. I think he's not being talked about enough, but I've been seeing the Mets. I'm seeing him all over with the Mets right now. They've been showing a lot of his stuff that he's been doing. I think he's the X factor for the Mets. He's one of the reasons why I have the Mets making a big jump, because I think he has a lot left in the tank still if he can stay healthy, and that's a huge if, because he has not played hardly any baseball the last 2 years, but the last time we saw him on the field, he was still his normal self. I believe he drove in 29 runs in about 38 games the last time he played. So he's on pace for about 100 RBIs, and that's typical Yoenis Cespedes, and he was hitting 280. So I think he's a big X factor, and I think he'll have the opportunity because Brandon Nimmo did not play good baseball last year and also was injured. And I think the Mets are going to give Cespedes a chance to step right in there because, obviously he's under that huge contract.
Because they renegotiated his contract a lot to pay him a lot less money.
Yeah.
Because the big thing last year was if he makes the majors at all, $20 million out of your cap.
Yeah, and I think he's going to get the chance, and I'm really excited to see, because the last time we saw Yoenis Cespedes, he was a very exciting player. 2015, I know that's crazy, that's 5 years now, but he did kind of lift the Mets up from the ground and take them all the way to the World Series.
So there's obviously Joe Adell, the big prospect for the Angels, struggled a little bit in AAA, but he tore up the Arizona Fall League. If he puts on a good enough showing, do you think the Angels have any reason to hold him down beyond service time?
That's the big thing, service time. Joe Adell has a lot of potential and a great prospect, and it must be mouthwatering for Angels fans to see the sight of him next to Mike Trout in that outfield. And obviously Justin Upton's getting up there in age, so there's a spot for Joe Adell. Spring training comes, if he hits 400 or something like that, yeah, I think you have to consider it. But I think, barring him just being one of the best players in spring training for them, I don't think he'll be up to start.
I think another player to look out for not to look out for, but that needs to prove themselves is Manny Machado.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
They're paying him an astronomical amount for someone who really has underperformed for them, I think. The Padres are still not really any better than they were a couple seasons ago without him. So
I think he hit like 200 at home or something absurd.
Yeah, it's his batting average, if you look at the past couple of years, it's just gone down. It's not getting any better. So he's all talk. That's the thing. I think what kills him a lot is his attitude, because he has one of the nastiest attitudes in baseball.
He also, at least in my opinion, he ended the career of Dustin Pedroia probably 5 years before it should have ended.
Probably.
Yeah.
I also think another player, Chris Sale, I think he's got a lot of pressure on him. He does not have Porcello's out of that rotation. David Price is out of that rotation. There's not a lot left in that rotation for Boston. And
because Erod had a great year last year, but what does one pitcher do?
That's exactly. And Chris Sale is, I think he's one of the best pitchers in baseball. He didn't pitch like it last year. Now I think his stuff was fine. He struck out, 200 some odd batters. But his velocity was not there, and I think that's the thing that everybody questions. Is this the downturn of Chris Sale's career for sure? And I think we'll find out this year if Chris Sale...
Was it due to injury, or was it because
we'll find out. And this is a Boston team. This is not a normal Boston team. Nobody's expecting them to compete. But if you can get Chris Sale, and I'm talking, Cy Young candidate Chris Sale, to come back for you, I think Boston will have a chance. So I think Chris Sale, we'll have to see. And I think spring training will be indicative of how fast he's throwing, and yeah.
I don't know so much about Boston having a chance. I still think they've got a lot of fixing to do with their, with what they have left. But yeah, I agree with you what you said.
I think someone who might have a lot to do is David Ross, the new Cubs manager, because it came out either today or yesterday that they want to hit Chris Bryant leadoff. Mm-hmm. I like it. I think it's interesting because you obviously don't want to give the leadoff hitter, they're going to get the most at bats in your lineup.
Yeah.
And you're not going to give the leadoff spot to Javi Baez because he doesn't get on base enough. He swings at anything. If he sits on a fastball and you throw a fastball, it doesn't matter if you throw it in the strike zone or to the third base dugout. He's going to swing at that fastball.
And like we said, Chris Bryant has kind of underachieved the last 2 years. I think it'd be good for him to get a new setting in that lineup, and maybe it'll spark something with Chris Bryant. So I think it benefits all parties involved because the Cubs, they've got to do something different.
Yes.
Last year, that should not happen, especially a Joe Maddon
Did they
team.
lose 12 games at the end of the season to lose the division?
Yeah, it just can't happen. And I know Joe Maddon's not there anymore, but that can't happen. I never thought I'd see that to a Joe Maddon team. And that's what happened, and he paid the price for it. And David Ross is a well-loved guy in that clubhouse. And the returns so far are fantastic from Cubs players and management. So I think David Ross, he is a key. And we'll have to see how his managerial skills are. Obviously, you've heard him commentating on, ESPN Baseball. I think he's a very smart mind, obviously. He's got a feel for the game. He's played it for a while. I think he's going to do wonders there.
So just to kind of close this one out, we're going to go with who you think the biggest X factor player-wise is for their team.
What do you mean? Sorry.
Like the player that if they do great, the biggest tipping point. Like if they do great, their team makes the playoffs, makes the wild card.
Okay. I think... I don't know. I think that's with the Dodgers. I think it's Mookie.
You think it's Mookie?
I think it's Mookie. I mean, I think the Dodgers, are expected to go a little far, but let's see if he does what they say he's going to do.
This one I could pick two guys, but I'm going to highlight the Rays here because I think they probably will make the wild card and push for the division a little bit. I don't know if they'll chase the Yankees down, but I'm looking at two guys, Blake Snell and Tyler Glasnow. Blake Snell had an injury-riddled year last year. He caught his form at the end of the year, so that was a very good sign. And Tyler Glasnow, I mean, the guy was unbelievable before he got hurt, and when he came back, you saw the flashes again. If they can put full seasons together with Charlie Morton there, and the Rays have great pitching, and they always piece together hitting, I think we're talking about a World Series contender, and I truly believe that because how many teams can match up to Charlie Morton, Blake Snell, and Tyler Glasnow? And then have a guy like Ryan Yarbrough back-ending that with a good prospect like Brendan McKay. I think they're going to go back to that rotation style. And then, hell of a bullpen. I think losing Emilio Pagan, that hurts a little bit. But, again, the Rays always find ways to win. And you have Nick Anderson now, who was their best reliever last year.
Absolutely incredible down the stretch.
Absolutely incredible. He was the key. I think one of the big keys for them making that wild card run.
Completely a tale of two completely different seasons.
Yeah, and you think about what they gave up to get him. They gave up Ryan Stanek, who was, he is the opener, but he was a solid arm in the back of that bullpen. And they also gave up Jesus Sanchez, who's a top 40 prospect for the Rays. That's a big price to pay for a guy like Nick Anderson, who a lot of people didn't even know who he was. But you saw the payoff right away, and he's under team control for 5 more years. That's huge. Back to the original question. I think Tyler Glasnow and Blake Snell are huge for the Rays going forward.
I think the biggest X factor is Edwin Diaz. If he goes back to his 2018 form or even something like that, he doesn't have to save 50 games. He doesn't have to save every single game, but the Mets led the league in blown saves last year.
Yeah, and
If he doesn't blow half those saves, the Mets win that division.
And their hitting is going to keep him in the games. And obviously, if DeGrom's pitching, I mean, you really don't have much excuse not to win that game.
It's so hard to lose games with DeGrom on the mound. I don't know how they do it.
Yeah.
That's the Mets for you. That's been the story of the Mets for a long time now.
Yes.
So, does anybody have any closing thoughts?
No. I think we're good.
I just want to say I'm very excited for baseball season.
Yes.
I've had enough of the straight up just basketball going on and not much else. I mean, I watch hockey, but not a lot of people watch hockey. But I'm ready. I'm really ready for baseball. I love spring training time, and opening day is coming. So
Yeah, I'm ready.
Are you guys ready to go to a spring training game
Oh, yeah.
absolutely,
either later this month?
I
yeah.
love it.
I love going to spring training games.
All right, so thank you everybody for tuning in to the Take Me Out to the podcast, this first episode. I hope you enjoy, and we will see you next week for more baseball, and baseball.